We continue to see if this storm becomes Ophelia as it makes landfall in North Carolina this weekend. It's Lee Weather Team meteorologist Joe Martucci. Tropical storm warnings are out for this storm, which is not tropical yet, but if it becomes tropical, would be named Ophelia. If you're in South Carolina, North Carolina, or Virginia, impacts mainly Friday afternoon to Saturday night. For Delaware, New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania, we're talking about impact Saturday into Sunday here. We have a storm surge warning in effect from Chicotee down to Morehead City, but a few counties are in a storm surge watch. So what's the difference? Well, the watch means that there is the potential for storm surge in these areas, but not a definite. We're just keeping an eye out for it. A warning means that it will more than likely be happening soon in these regions. Really, those places that are in a watch, either the storm surge isn't expected to be as high, that's in the case for those counties south of Morehead City, or for the places on the landward side of Nags Head, we're talking about some higher ground there, and it has a higher threshold for it to actually flood with storm surge. We do have tropical storm warnings in effect from about halfway through South Carolina on all the way up into Ocean City, Maryland. This does include a good portion of inland North Carolina. You see down the Rocky Mount, we have a tropical storm warning, and then we also have warnings going up some of the Chesapeake Bay counties as well, getting into Maryland here. We take a look at our satellite, and it doesn't look that impressive on radar what could be Ophelia. We are calling it potential tropical cyclone 16. It does have strong winds, though, so it's already meeting that tropical storm wind threshold, but it hasn't become what we call in the weather world a warm core storm. Now, post-tropical storm Nigel is also out there in the North Atlantic. It's at the same latitude as Maine and moving closer to Europe. And then we have another low-pressure system off the Cape Verde Islands, and we'll talk about that at the end of this show. But let's focus on the storm at hand. That is potential tropical cyclone 16. It could become Ophelia here. National Hurricane Center saying it will become a tropical storm sometime tonight. But the National Hurricane Center has also been saying it could become a tropical cyclone for the past 24 hours. So it really just hasn't gotten its act together yet in terms of it becoming a warm core storm. Either way, it is going to make landfall near Morehead City, North Carolina, Saturday morning. And then it moves pretty much due north into Virginia Saturday night here. And then it will weaken as it goes into Baltimore and into the I-95 corridor as we go into Sunday. It's also important to note that the majority of the impacts are on the northern side of the storm, or ahead of when the storm actually makes landfall here. So that's one thing to pay attention to over the weekend. It has some runway to become a warm core storm, but that runway increasingly has gotten shorter here. Tropical storms need water temperatures at or above 80 degrees to become that warm core storm, and we have it. It might do it as it crosses the Gulf Stream, the core of that Gulf Stream where you see those darker reds, but it really only has about 24 hours to become a tropical storm. If not, we're just going to call this a coastal storm that's impacting the region here. Take a look at our futurecast. You see that heavy rain pounding the Outer Banks, and then it moves into North Carolina and Virginia as we go into Saturday, and then eventually New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Saturday night is when the core of that storm gets through there, and then it goes into New England as we go into our Sunday and into Monday as well. Rainfall totals are going to be high in places. Richmond is forecasted to see 4 or 5 inches of rain. Anywhere in that red is expected to see 2.5 inches of rain. And if you have a house and you're in that red area and your basement usually floods, you could be flooding with this storm. If you live next to a stream or creek and they usually rise above its banks in heavy rain, probably going to do so in this setup as well. But notice how kind of confined this rain is, because you go to Greensboro, North Carolina, 1/4 to 1/2 inch of rain. Florence, South Carolina, only maybe 50 miles inland, sees no rain from this here. So depending on where you are in the states here, depends on how much rain you see. I think, though, once you get to Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, the whole state is going to see heavy rain at times throughout the weekend. Well, look at our winds here. The Outer Banks is definitely going to jump out at you as you go forward in time, but we'll still be talking about some stronger winds as you get towards the coastal areas into this weekend. For North Carolina, it's primarily going to be tonight into Saturday here. Then once we get into Atlantic City and places north, it's more Saturday into Saturday night. Do note that sustained winds over 39 miles an hour or tropical storm force, I think we'll get there in the Outer Banks. I think we'll get there in some of the mainland areas of North Carolina on the water. Otherwise, though, I don't see it happening. there will be gusts that are over 39 miles an hour, but the sustained winds would stay under 39 miles an hour. We look at our wave heights as we go into Saturday and Sunday. 15 to 20 foot waves from North Carolina on up into southern coast of New England here. And then the storm will weaken and those wave heights will lessen. Now, it's not a good weekend to be out at the beach anyway or to do boating, but just keep in mind the waves are dangerous and we do have storm warnings that are lining the offshore waters. Then we have to talk about this storm that is to the west of the Cape Verde Islands as we go into next week. It has a 90% chance of turning into a tropical storm, a named storm, as we go into the weekend and into next week. And we'll be talking about that in next week's editions of Hurricane Hunt. You can check out your favorite local newsroom website for more on the weather situation in your area. You can always come back to our lead weather team for our Across the Sky podcast. New episodes come out every Monday.